Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time, you know what we did. We went to the Void Crusade and we're going to keep going with that. We got to go to... Map, where's the map? Over here. Yeah, I'm not doing the time limit. You can't make me. Physical and warp resist. That's pretty friggin' neato. Good thing I got heat damage. So I got some interesting news. Actually, pretty good news. Instead of me being the harbinger of doom, despair, and unfortunate things, this is good news for developers. Specifically for EA. The higher-ups at EA have finally said that they will allow their studios to use whatever engine they want instead of forcing them to use Frostbite. And you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, first, this has been... their rule for using Frostbite, to my knowledge, has been going for the past decade. Yeah, it's really been that long. Starting with, I think, Dragon Age Inquisition. And this was a terrible idea back in the day, because Frostbite was made for Battlefield. That's it. It was the Battlefield engine. It was so bad and difficult to work with that the devs for Inquisition were quoted saying that the only help they could get was contacting DICE, and DICE wasn't always available because there was no documentation and no one else knew how to use the engine. And then there's the fact that it was made for Battlefield. It didn't have like a save load system already kind of prepped and ready to go. It didn't have like any staples for an RPG or for anything except Battlefield. And they just kept going with it. EA kind of just went, oh, you're struggling? That's a you problem. And I don't know if it's that. Finally, someone higher up went, oh, this has actually been a problem for a long time and has been hurting us, or what the deal is. But they finally had their come to Jesus moment and said, oh, we should really just let everybody just use what they want to use. And I get the initial plan. Because the initial idea was, we don't want to pay licensing fees for engines. And I get that. I 100% understand. Licensing fees suck, and it chews up money. But if your engine doesn't do well with anything but one specific game or genre of game, maybe don't force everyone to use it for everything else. It's kind of like if you have a hammer, don't use it to, like, put in screws, because it's not really meant for that. Don't use it to, do anything except hammer nails, because it's only going to be less efficient and sometimes just a net negative. And that's kind of the situation. They just decided, hey, we're gonna use an engine not really meant for this kind of stuff for this stuff. But I'm glad. I am genuinely happy. Because the Frostbite engine, I think, is holding a lot of their games back. I think that's what they use for Madden, and that would explain why Madden is god-awful at this point. And why it's the most horrendous, buggy mess on the planet. And would also explain why this game was so bad this year, because they might be like, hey, We're just not going to consolidate technical debt because we're going to another engine next year, so we don't have to put up with this anymore. Which is still kind of a dick move, because this year's game is god-awful and is an affront to mankind, but I'm at least a little understanding. I just hope it means, however far Mass Effect 4 is, even though, yes, we can argue Andromeda is technically Mass Effect 4, I consider Andromeda to be kind of a side series. It's set elsewhere, it's its own thing. If it were to get a sequel, you would have Andromeda 2. But the still in the Milky Way galaxy, new BioWare Mass Effect game that is somewhere in development, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. That game hopefully can use a new engine and not suffer horrendously. I've been saying what they should do with Frostbite is what Crytek has done with CryEngine, what Epic has done with Unreal, what anyone worth their salt, or worth their weight in salt, would do with a game engine. Make it publicly available, do your licensing scheme, whatever, but let other people kind of do the documentation. Seriously, if you have, there is a proper set of online documentation for Unreal. It kind of sucks. Odds are, if you are working with the engine, you're like, I want to do insert whatever here, there is, I'd say, a good 90% chance there is an Indian man on YouTube who can tell you how to do it. Wow, I died. But the mission's done, so I don't have to care. Haha, loser. Also, I just realized she, like, one-tapped the entire squad. That was a little alarming. Not gonna lie, that was not expecting to just get, like, ragdolled to that degree. But okay. I'm used to Psychers just exploding, not grabbing me and I end up getting mollywopped. Yeah, great that they're able to let the engine kind of go and let everybody use what they want, but I think they should make it available, because people will do the documentation. People will figure things out. Yes, it would require them to kind of set up a studio or some branch that's just like the engine people. But I think it pays for itself in the end. But at least now they can hopefully not struggle as much. Let's try squaring up again. Ah, it's the grenade spam. That's probably what got me. No, it's the cloud. Wow. That is... We're going at it again. We're stupid. We don't learn lessons. But that is... Oh my god. Why is the damage that high? There is no rhyme or reason to that. For $4 grand. You kidding me? Yeah, it didn't affect my life count. We found the cheese. I mean, I already kind of knew that's the trick, is you just beat the mission as fast as possible so that you don't die to anything, and then you can die as much as you want because the mission's complete. Yeah, that's completely doable. Yeah, I can't get over it. I'm genuinely happy, because it should never have been a thing where it's just like, yeah, everybody's forced to use this engine. It's nice to see a company wisen up. Do I think it's the new era of EA magically not doing some underhanded things or anything like that? No, I just think they realized it was probably affecting their development cycles, and they weren't having any of that. But it's good. There was something else I was going to bring up, but now that I'm sitting here talking, it just completely slipped my mind. Which always happens, it's a little annoying. If it's important, I'll remember it. If not, oh well.
Inquisitor. Electrospectral scanning revealed info fragments of high importance in close proximity. Blessed scanning psalms have been executed and indicate essential info fragments, Inquisitor. Data has been inloaded.
It's gonna be weird when the season ends and this whole, like, hey, shoot the guy with the rune under him to make an explosion thing goes away. I'm too used to just one-tapping some garbage and then chain reacting an entire zone. I have it too good at the moment. Now I'm thinking about Mass Effect more. I really, really hope they learn something from, like, Baldur's Gate now. Which, actually, I saw people talking about that now that Baldur's Gate won Game of the Year, we're probably going to see either a bunch of bad CRPGs trying to ride off that, or, what I think is more likely, we're going to have devs who fail to understand why it succeeded, and they're going to try to just emulate whatever they can. Like, shoehorned, like, skill checks and stuff that will not make any sense, or they'll be like, oh, see, we added RPG elements, and it'll be just the most bare-bones RPG element. And then when it fails, they're gonna go, oh, well, people clearly don't want RPG elements. It's like, no, we like them, just do them right. I'd love for Mass Effect to kind of go back to its RPG roots a bit. It doesn't have to go like full KOTOR and have actual hit chances. I've said it before, it was literally D20 Star Wars, but in a game form. You could even look at your stats and you had like base attack bonus and everything you'd find in a normal D&D game. Which was cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was cool. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's iffy. Because I've seen people complain about Baldur's Gate saying, oh, well, they should have had, like, you could switch between turn-based or live combat, which KOTOR managed to dodge that by just being live action combat. another game which people, unless you know like CRPGs, you wouldn't recognize the name. Arcanum of Magix Obscura, I believe it is. Steamworks of Magic Obscura. I believe Mandalore Gaming did a video on it. And I think Seth Zentak did a video on it. So if you watch either of them, you can find that. But one of the things in the game was you could switch between real-time or turn-based. And the problem, casting and I believe certain attacks like bows were... In turn-based they were balanced. In real-time, I believe it was bows fired like machine guns, and you would just rain death on people. And that's the problem, because it is a thing where you have to balance out combat, and those two modes, real-time and turn-based, have different things. In the end, if you do real-time, you are essentially just removing the pause between the turns. If you want to make it as balanced, I think, as possible. Everything kind of needs cooldowns, even basic attacks. It's one of those things where it's more work than it's really worth. So you're better off just going, screw it, one or the other. But I think a lot of skill stuff would be nice. Rogue Trader, great example of having good skill system. Is it a little easy to game the system? Yeah, you literally just pick one person in your party and you're like, this is the athletics guy. You build up his athletics and strength. This is the Lore Xenos guy. Build up his intelligence and Lore Xenos. This is your Lore the Warp guy. This is your coercion. Granted, all like the coercion, trade, and the other skill that relies on fellowship. You can just kind of mush them together into one character. But in general, like, you have these skills that you just kind of put together and you can kind of... There's still a chance your skill's not going to be high enough for some of the checks, but in general you meet all the skill checks. Which is fine. I don't have a problem with it being like, hey, you can kind of one and done this game if you want. Because I don't think the skill checks should be the defining factor of whether or not you play a CRPG again. I think it's more the overarching story and morality choices. Are you neutral? Are you good? Are you bad? Are you dogmatic or heretical? Things like that, I think, are more the important matter. The skill checks should just be like, hey, you notice something's a little weird here. You notice that this guy doesn't look right, or you spot a little extra loot. Good on you. Kudos, here's a little extra. Because I think a new Mass Effect could go absolutely wild with some good old-fashioned CRPG elements. Actually, general RPG stuff. Biggest one for me, gear, like, prefix gear. Instead of making, like, umpteen shotguns, I mean, you still could have a ton of shotguns. Within Mass Effect lore, you have, like, the Eklos Combine, and... oh god, I can't even remember the companies. But there's a handful of companies that make weapons. But you could even expand it further and be like, oh, this is a pirate-modified version. So it's like, oh, you have a shotgun, but it's pirate-modded, so it's actually full auto. or there's a factory that builds certain spec weapons and it gives you a bonus on something. This way, personally, I love loot. I always point out when I say it, I'm playing this game, I've been playing this game for years. I love loot, I love ARPGs and anything where I can just sit here, compare loot, be like, ooh, did I get something better? Did I get garbage? I absolutely love it, I think it's fun. That's why I love templates for gear when I play like D&D or Star Wars Saga Edition. Everybody I play with knows that I just make tons of gear to find. The number of unique weapons I made for Star Wars Saga Edition is stupid. Because I would just sit down and be like, what can I do? And just start slapping stuff together. Trying to make my own templates and whatnot, because it's fun. It sucks when you're just like, you found rifle. And you're just looking at going, well, this is my 50th rifle, I don't care anymore. But something as simple as it deals 1 extra fire damage, or it has a new effect on critical hit, suddenly makes it interesting. It's, this is a new thing, this could be cool. And sometimes that's all you need, then you can give your character a little more flavor. You aren't just some guy who has, like, space revolvers. You fire revolvers that have monofilament rounds that on crits just unspool the filament and cause bleeding. Just cool stuff that, realistically, it's like 1d6 extra damage on a crit. But while you're playing, that's the coolest thing ever. It makes encounters interesting. Still not a boss mission. Oh yeah, you. What are you? For stat. Flamer. T-Bolt. Ooh, five slots. That is... God, I see. This is the problem. It kinda sucks. It's such a shame because 5 slots are so good, but like Rosarius Field when stunned. That's like a knockdown. And that's when stunned or knocked down. I am not. Or, no, is Rosarius a shield? But either way, if I'm getting stunned or knocked down, I'm already SOL. No little bubble shield's gonna save me. Movement speed when suppression status is protected. Garbage. All resistances when surrounded. Garbage. HP on hit. Acceptable. Yeah, it's getting dumpstered. It's a shame, but what can you do? Basic secret mission with no big penalties. 69 damage for... bonus damage for champion enemies. Nice. Enemies gained... can we... I will accept it. Even though I will blow through these guys. Realistically. This may screw me over, who knows. We're gonna go for it. I just remembered there's a new Mech Warrior game coming out, Mech Warrior Clans, which, on one hand, cool, they're doing a game like dedicated to the clanner invasion. On the other hand, they're switching to Unreal 5, I think, so I don't know if all the old stuff's gonna like plug in or not, which kind of blows because that kneecaps a lot of mods. I hope people can figure out how to just graft a bunch of the old stuff. Or they just are like, hey, so you know all the old stuff from MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries? Yeah, all of it we're just putting into Clan. Because if that's the case, I'm just getting Clans and I'm playing that. Because that would be fun. It's just... I don't know if they're going to have all the reputation stuff, and that's kind of the fun part of playing MechWarrior. At least as the mercenary stuff. I love any game that lets you have faction rep and all that. Because even though it's kind of a cheap way of creating playability, to me, I'm a sucker for it. It works. Because then I'm just like, ooh, maybe I can side with these guys this time. And it's simple, but I always enjoy it. That's actually what really disappointed me with Necromunda Hired Gun. Is you could boost your rep with all these factions, but it didn't mean anything. Oh, you maxed out. Here's a loot cache of like the 8 guns you've seen 100 times. It's like, okay, cool, I guess. That's a game. I got a lot of respect for the devs who made it, because they're a small team and they did a good job. But I'd love to see someone with a bigger team and a bigger budget go at it, because I think you could make an incredible game that keeps players busy for a very long time. Even, once again, Rogue Trader, you can get like las rifles that are like Mizoa pattern and all this stuff. You could do basic stuff like that and turn your arguably small amount of weapon options into a far bigger set. Oh, it's a stationary gun. I was like, what is hitting me so hard? That would explain everything. Oh, yeah, I was racking my brain. I was thinking about something before I was recording. I had an idea for a Quake game, because I really enjoyed Enemy Territory Quake Wars. Granted, I have a love for, like, Dambuster Studios. I think it's Dambuster. I know for a while it was... Or no, they were a different studio. It's Splash Damage. Splash Damage, because they did Brink as well. I got a love for their work, because I love class-based co-op kind of shooter, or like team-based FPS games, where there's the cooperation of going, hey, you're this class, I'm this class, we each have to do different things to win. Even though Brink was, admittedly, it was kind of a mess. It had balance issues, which is a shame, but I will definitely admit it had problems. But I was thinking it'd be cool to have like a new version of Enemy Territory Quake Wars, but utilizing more like a base building element. If you've seen Renegade X, the Command and Conquer like fan-made game, that's like Renegade, the old Command and Conquer game. It was an FPS they made, but it's like, hey, Renegade X, it's a fan-made version that's got the GDI and nod and all this stuff, and it's really cool. The fact EA never reached out and was like, hey, you guys want to, like, sell it and we'll like give you a budget and you guys can make this even bigger. Instead, EA is just like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing with Command and Conquer. We're doing like a mobile game again. Yeah, we know the last one got just absolutely destroyed by fans, but come on, we can't do the same thing twice, can we? Spoiler alert, you probably can. Yeah, translating RTS games into mobile games tends to not work well, and the fans don't like it. But I was thinking it'd be cool to have that, because I love Quake 2 and 4, and 1 even. 3, I wasn't a big fan of Quake Arena. But I thought the Strogg were the coolest enemies. And everybody who's seen the Stroggification scene in Quake 4 knows back in the 2000s, that was before Dead Space, that was the most graphic scene you ever saw in a video game. It'd be kind of cool to kind of revive that style, but I don't think EA ever would because it competes with Battlefield or something. Ooh, Heavy Flamer. What's it look like? 4-statter. And kinda bad. Random vulnerability. It works for certain builds where more debuffs you have, like we have. If it had more stats, I'd maybe consider it, but it is a flamer. So we're already kinda in a problem. I should probably just dumpster this. Yeah. It's a shame, but I'm just gonna dump it. Nope. Actually, we're gonna keep it, because those slots, we could actually crank this thing's... It's almost 20 levels behind. We're just gonna dump it. I'm gonna sit here and keep hemming and hawing it until the day I die, if I don't otherwise. Eviscerator, don't really use them, but cool. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button, it helps out the channel a lot, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.